Welcome to the Perception Lab. Today, we're diving into a fascinating mystery that literally affects every single one of us, every single day. We're looking at the strange, invisible force of price. I mean, have you ever wondered why that ridiculously expensive cup of coffee somehow just tastes better than the cheap one from the corner store? Or why a premium skincare cream feels like it's working the second you rub it in, way before it actually has time to do anything? Look, we all love to think of ourselves as these perfectly rational decision makers, carefully weighing objective value. But in today's explainer, we're going to crack open the hard science and the behavioral data that prove our brains are constantly being played. Picture this. You've got two identical bottles floating right in front of you. The first one is priced at $10. The second one, glowing right next to it, is priced at $100. Inside, the liquid is exactly the same. The chemical composition is literally identical. And yet, if given the choice, a huge portion of our brains inherently craves the $100 bottle. We don't just want it more, our brains actually anticipate that it's going to be vastly superior. But if the objective reality is exactly the same, why does the expensive one actually feel better? Okay, let's dive into this. Case number 008, the price illusion. First up, variable 1, mental shortcuts and effort. To figure out why expensive things just instantly feel right, we need to run a clinical breakdown of how price signals value to our brains. We're going to look at 3 specific variables researchers have uncovered, starting with the hidden mental gymnastics we perform completely on autopilot. Let's be real. As consumers, we're totally overwhelmed. Whether you're in a crowded store or scrolling online, you simply don't have the time or the brain power to objectively analyze the true value of every single thing you buy. So the brain relies on heuristics. These are basically mental shortcuts that help us make snap decisions without overthinking. And one of the most powerful shortcuts we use? Associating the price of something with the effort it took to make it. Think about how we treat our own money. If you find a $100 bill on the sidewalk, you're probably going to spend it on a whim, right? It was easy money. But if that exact same $100 is part of a hard-earned paycheck, you are way less likely to just blow it. The actual economic value is completely identical, but the perceived value changes completely based on the effort attached to it. Psychologists actually call this the effort heuristic. Basically, when we don't have the expertise to judge an item's true quality, we just use the creator's perceived effort as a stand-in. We assume, hey, if someone poured hours and hours into making this, it must be inherently better, and so, of course, it justifies a higher price. But is that actually true, or is it just a massive gap in our perception? Well, to test this, researchers led by Justin Kruger asked people to evaluate a poem. Half the group was told the poet spent 4 hours writing it. The other half, they were told the poet agonized over it for 18 hours. The poem itself never changed a single word. Yet the group that heard 18 hours rated the poem's quality much higher and said it was worth significantly more money. And this wasn't just a fluke. The researchers repeated the exact same experiment with abstract paintings by Deborah Clevin. When people thought a painting took 26 hours instead of 4 hours, they vastly preferred it and valued it higher. They even tested this with medieval armor. When told a blacksmith spent 110 hours rather than 15 hours on a shield, people just assumed it was infinitely better. The objective art literally never changed, but the perceived effort dramatically spiked its value. Basically, if it takes longer, our brains assume it's premium. All right, moving on to variable 2, the marketing placebo effect. So we know that the story of effort changes our conscious perception of value. But let's take this experiment to the next level. What happens when price physically changes our biological experience? We're stepping away from simple cognitive bias now and getting into some heavy scientific evidence about physiological responses. Enter the marketing placebo effect. Now, we've all heard of medical placebos, right? Where a sugar pill somehow cures a headache just because the patient believes it will. Well, the marketing placebo effect operates on the exact same principle, but the medicine here is the price tag itself. Our assumption that quality has its price is so deeply hardwired into us that a high price can literally alter how our bodies react to a product. Look at this data from Placebo Mark's research. It is absolutely wild. When given a placebo painkiller that was presented as a high-cost medication, subjects actually reported a 35% reduction in pain from an electric shock. But when given the exact same placebo and told it was a discount brand, the pain reduction dropped to 25%. And it gets crazier. Subjects who bought an energy drink at full price objectively performed better on cognitive tests than those who bought the exact same drink on sale. Even with chocolate, people eating chocolate labeled as a super expensive brand did better on memory tests than people eating the exact same chocolate labeled as a cheap brand. So the crucial point here is we are no longer just talking about people saying they like something more to sound sophisticated. We are looking at a deep scan of the human reaction. This is a physiological response. That high price tag is literally unlocking enhanced performance, better memory, and superior pain relief in the human body. The price is hacking our nervous system. Which brings us to variable 3, inside the reward center. To truly understand this nervous system hack, researchers at the University of Bonn and the Inside Business School put consumers inside an MRI machine to watch their brains process price in real time. Let's walk through this clinical trial. 30 participants lay down inside a brain scanner. A screen flashed a price, let's say 18 euros. Then, researchers squirted exactly 1 milliliter of wine into the participant's mouth through a tube. The participant swallowed, rated the taste, rinsed their mouth out, and repeated the whole process with new prices flashing on the screen, like 3 euros or 6 euros. And all the while, the MRI scanner is mapping out their neural activity. But here is the magnificent twist of the whole experiment. Are you ready for this? There were no 3 euro, 6 euro, or 18 euro wines. They were drinking the exact same 12 euro red wine every single time. The only thing changing was that glowing digital price tag they saw right before they tasted it. Despite this, the participants consistently rated the wine as tasting significantly better when they saw the 18 euro price tag compared to the 3 euro one. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why the wine tasted better, because the MRI scans caught it all. When the participants saw the higher price, 2 specific areas of the brain lit up like a Christmas tree. First, the medial prefrontal cortex integrated the expectation. It basically saw the high price and said, oh yeah, this is going to be amazing. Then it sent a signal straight to the ventral striatum, which is the brain's reward and motivation center. The high price literally activated the reward center more, physically intensifying the pleasure of the taste. The wine itself didn't taste better. Their brains made it taste better. So, let's bring it all together. Conclusion: the perception gap. Looking at all this lab data, we reach a fascinating conclusion about being a consumer today. We really have to draw a clear line between the functional reality of the stuff we buy and the psychological theater our brains project onto it. There is a massive perception gap. Think of objective value as a short line. That's the actual cost of materials, the chemical composition, the literal hours of labor. But perceived value, that line stretches way, way further. And that gap is filled in by the effort heuristic, the marketing placebo effect, and the firing of our ventral striatum. Brand reputation, premium packaging, and most importantly, high pricing stretch our perception far beyond the static reality of the product. This is exactly why prestige pricing works so incredibly well for luxury brands. When a brand charges a massive premium, they aren't just selling you a handbag, a watch, or some fancy skin serum. They are selling you a biological reaction. When we see an elegant design paired with an eye-watering price tag, we aren't just buying the item, we are buying the expectation of superiority. The high price is a feature, not a bug. It signals exclusivity and status, it reduces our perceived risk, and it just makes the whole decision feel effortlessly right. The product didn't change, the expectation did. Just let that sink in for a second. It's a profound realization. Your subjective experience of reality is highly malleable, and marketers know exactly how to shape it just by changing the number on a sticker. So as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a challenge straight from those researchers at the University of Bonn. Now that you know your ventral striatum is playing a trick on you every single time you see a premium price, can you train your physical perception to beat the illusion? The next time you reach for the most expensive item on the shelf simply because it feels right, stop and ask yourself, are you actually paying for a better product, or are you just paying for a placebo? Thank you so much for joining me in the lab today. Keep questioning the world around you, and I'll see you in the next explainer.